What's up? Welcome back. It's another top 10 list. We're rolling out of the screenplay categories and starting to roll in some acting categories. Ooh. Ooh. Just one. Anyway, this is top 10 ensembles of the year. How do I grade this? What do I do here? I'm thinking about like the depth of the bench and how great everybody was, not just one performance, not just two performances. Films with tiny casts, I don't use that for that. You could make an argument and be like, well, Past Lives is a great ensemble of three people, sure, but there are some films where they seemingly hired 30 amazing actors who, even in small performances, people were absolute fire. So I films like The Holdovers, Past Lives with smaller casts are just not here. Um, doesn't mean the little tiny ensemble isn't great, but it's kind of more impressive when you cast like a bajillion people in your film and all of them are good. And I have no complaints. So that's where this is going. I want to say honorable mention here because there's one film that I did not put on this list, but pretty explicitly just because of the way the film is structured. Um, I would like to say an honorable mention to all of the indigenous native actors in Killers of the Flower Moon. That part of the ensemble. You deserved better. You deserved more scenes. You deserved recognition from the Screen Actors Guild. I'm not perpetuating this by continuing to recognize a predominantly white male ensemble. Just not doing it. So Killers of the Flower Moon is not going to make my list, but I would really like to recognize Lily Gladstone and the rest of the cast that play Osage in Killers of the Flower Moon, as they appropriately should be recognized for their work in a film about them. Screen Actors Guild really should go back and fix that ensemble nomination. So, which 10 films did make the list? Since I've said a couple that did not. Let's see. Number 10, American Fiction. One of my favorite films of the year. You've heard me say it a couple times in a couple of other categories. It's popped up in adapted screenplay, popped up in independent feature, popped up in feature, best directorial debut. It popped up, score. I really love this movie. Why is it number 10? Honestly, because even though I think the supporting cast is great when they come in and out, I think the film is Jeffrey Wright. I think the film is Jeffrey Wright. I do. But I do think that when the supporting cast comes in, that they're all really good. And I can't fault them for that. And some of them offer a lot to the film. Not just Sterling K. Brown, but the little moments of Tracy Ellis Ross is in the film. I thought she was really good. I thought Issa Rae was really good in this. So just a couple examples of that. But yeah, American Fiction, number 10 for me. Number 9, Barbie. This is an ensemble that often has people who we aren't talking about. I mean, the race immediately became about Ryan Gosling. Will Ryan Gosling get a supporting actor nomination? And then it expanded to, oh, maybe Margot will get one for Barbie. Oh shit, maybe America Ferrera is going to get a supporting actress nomination. But if you watch the film, you know that the film is much more than that, right? Like, for example, Kate McKinnon is fantastic in her role as Barbie. Weird Barbie. So it's got a solid performance from a child actor. Will Ferrell is hilarious as the head of Mattel. And all the little people running around. Michael Cera as Alan is a nice little addition. He's always just like, I'm Alan. Hi. Just so totally perfect casting for that role. Yeah, the ensemble of Barbie is much deeper than just Margot, Ryan, and America's speech. It's it's broader and more interesting than that. And then a lot of people who played Barbie couples in this, a Barbie or a Ken, um, who I would love to recognize all of them, not just one of them. It's so weird that Issa Rae is like the only other Barbie that's right. Like the SAG nomination for this is so weird. They didn't recognize any of the other Kens, and then they recognized one extra Barbie, and it's Issa. I'm just like, what is happening with these SAG Ensemble nominations? Like, why did you stop at her? What's going on here? So, anyway, moving up the list to number 8. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Another film you've heard me say a bunch. I've actually said Barbie quite a bit, too, to be fair. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. First of all, this is just a feat of casting child actors. The child actors in this film are all fantastic. None of them annoy you or feel like they can't act or they can't handle the material that they're being given. This is one of the best cast child ensembles in years, I would say. Um, Full of kids who are young, not teenagers. It's a lot easier to cast teenagers. A lot of younger kids who fill in these roles and are exploring the possibilities of going into puberty. And on top of that, they added in and fleshed it out with a nice adult ensemble around them of people who play parents and teachers, and of course, the main core family. Rachel McAdams and Benny Safdie, obviously a huge shout out, but Kathy Bates is fantastic in her supporting role. She comes in and out of the film. So, definitely a film you're going to continue to hear me talk about. I've already talked about it quite a bit. Again, it's been an adapted screenplay so far of things that I can remember that I had it listed in my top 10s. So, moving up the list. Number 7 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Another film I loved this year, and in my adapted screenplay I went a little hard. I was like, yeah, fuck everybody who just keeps saying that there were no great comic book movies in 2020. There was one for sure. Pretty certain everybody universally agreed Guardians rocked their faces off. I remember looking at all the reviews at the time, all the critics, YouTubers. Everybody was genuinely happy with that film when it came out. I really don't understand why we can't just be like, well, at least we had Guardians. At least give it its props, its due. The cast on this has always been fire, and then they expanded it to add a whole bunch of people who had to voice the Rocket Pals. Like Lila. We added a high executioner in this. There's a whole town full of people to interact with. In addition to the fact that because it's the series finale, they brought back the Ravagers, so they came back with Gamora for a hot second, so we got to see them one more time. A lot of people were featured in this, and it has a very broad ensemble, and it always feels like it's perfectly cast, expertly, the right people in the right roles, and I'm honoring it for that. Even though a lot of these people have been in the roles for 2 other films, it's a great cast, and they found the right people for the roles again. I don't know what to tell you. So Linda Cardellini as Lila, yeah, anyway. Moving up the list to number 6, The Color Purple. This musical adaptation seems to be flying under the radar a lot. If you watch it, you will at least be able to have the ensemble melt your face off with their voices. It's a really great musical that way. I enjoyed all of the performances. There wasn't somebody who I was like, nah, not for me. Nope. not gonna do that. I thought it was really great. You have like little tiny performances from like Louis Gossett Jr. Uh, wow, pull him out. Anyway, to I mean, people. This film is all about the female performances, right? The trio, the great trio. We talked about Fantasia, we talk about Daniela, and we talk about Taraji. But this film also has Coleman and Corey were both fantastic in their roles, as were some of the other people that I already mentioned. And it's some interesting debuts. Like her was in this. So, yeah. Don't write this film off. Don't write this ensemble off. And this is nominated as SAG Ensemble, and rightly so. So, moving up the list, number, what am I at? Five. Society of the Snow. This one was just hard to gauge. Like, I knew I wanted it on my ensemble list, but I couldn't put it at top, and I didn't want it on the bottom, so I just kind of sandwiched it in the middle. This one is kind of like, its ranking is fluctuating, and the reason for that being is that I fully acknowledge the fact that the way I assess this ensemble is through audio description, through dubbing. So I'm not getting necessarily 100% of the original performance from the actors, but I let the whole film wash over me, and the performances that I did get, the characters, everything, and I've assessed that regardless, Society of the Snow would be on this list somewhere, and I just kind of threw it in the middle because I don't know if I was cited, would it win? Would it be number 10? Would it be number 8? But I can't. There's no world where I don't think Society of the Snow, where I would be like, no, this ensemble that has no discernible lead is a true ensemble. This is probably the most ensemble-y thing I have on the list, because I don't think there is a lead to this film. Would not make the cut. So, yeah. Anyway, moving up the list. Moving on up the list. Saltburn. I really enjoyed this film, and I really enjoy the ensemble. I think this really is an ensemble-y film. You've got Barry Keoghan playing a guy who is introduced to first one world at school, and we get a bunch of characters at school, and we get a bunch of characters that we're introduced to at school also that never translate to Saltburn, which is what's really interesting, is that their characters really mean nothing for the last 2/3 of the film. Only a couple people actually follow to Saltburn. So you get really invested in some of these characters, and then we move to Saltburn, and another ensemble pops up. And obviously, Rosamund Pike was fantastic in this, but we also have Richard E. Grant, who's really great. And how about that? How about that lovely Carey Mulligan performance? It's funny that there were people who were like hoping she'd get a supporting actress nod for that. She was in the film for like a minute. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed Jacob Elordi, McCathway Gathway, this, and of course Barry, and just the broadness of the cast, and even actors whose name I don't even know. Like, I love the butler that is just always salty towards him and just kind of just stares him down like who the fuck is this kid? Yeah, it's got a great ensemble, and I like Saltburn, so it's on my list. Moving up, Rustin. Rustin is such a great example of how little performers in the film end up really making the film. This film somehow became all about Coleman Domingo. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, he's absolute fire in this film, totally, 100%. But Glenn Turman was fantastic. My God, Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright gives you a character to hate. This guy's like a historical figure, like a real person I did not know enough about. And when Jeffrey Wright plays him on screen, I'm just like, listen, this guy is an ass. Like, I'm apologizing Black History Month. I have no idea if this guy holds any sort of significance. But if you watch Jeffrey Wright play him in Rustin, there's absolutely no way that you're gonna be like, yeah, black icon right there. It's just, man, Jeffrey Wright plays him like such a fucking douchebag, and it's a brilliant performance. I actually enjoyed Chris Rock. I thought he was fine in this. Audra McDonald pops up for like a scene, and she's again fire. Just the whole ensemble that just kind of slides in for like one or two scenes or a couple little speeches or whatever, and then leaves. And yeah, Coleman is great the whole film, but he has all these other people playing historical figures who really existed, doing great work, and sadly not getting recognized for any of it. This would have been a great like surprise SAG Ensemble nomination. It just didn't happen. So anyway, I loved Rustin. I love Rustin's ensemble. This is an easy pick for me. Moving up the list is Air. Uh, yeah, well, Air's here because you can't really just pick one performance. You know what I'm saying? Like, who? Like Viola Davis? Okay. Well, Ben Affleck is fantastic in his role too. Chris Messina. Um, we've got obviously Matt Damon is great in his role. Jason Bateman, down to um, Marlon Wayans. You know, it's just like it bounces all over. Like every time someone's on the screen, they're great in their role. So it doesn't, all of the little people. I remember at the beginning of the year when people were making their lists and Air hadn't come out yet, the people who make their obsessively early predictions and the people who hadn't seen Air were wondering if the kid playing Michael Jordan could get an Oscar nomination. And then we realized how little he actually does in the film. Um, yeah, so it's it's such a solid cast, where seemingly everybody was picked perfectly and read the script exactly as they needed to. And yes, Viola Davis is fire. She always is. She's fire in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. She's one of the reasons I actually like that movie a little bit. I shouldn't say, I said that way too hard. I don't like that movie. I gave it a slightly favorable score of a C plus, due in part to Viola Davis. So it's all right. This is a better reaction. Um, moving up the list is the winner, Oppenheimer. Of course, this was going to win ensemble. Like, when I, I got nothing here. I mean, first of all, I don't even know how once you get past Cillian Murphy, I don't even know how we latched on to Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, because like the entire supporting actor cast. So one of the takeaways that I had from the film when I saw it was it's like the whole supporting cast is amazing. Everyone who's not Killian in their roles are all doing some of the best work of their careers. You have actors in here like Josh Hartnett who haven't done anything remotely this good in years. You got Benny Safdie popping up again in here. Um, you've got like Rami Malek. Just a lot of people in small roles just coming in and having like one scene and then leaving. It's funny how when you get down to, if you really just start scrolling through IMDb and going really deep into the cast, you'll see how many people Nolan picked up who are, I would say, names, not necessarily like marquee names, but they're in these incredibly small roles, like Devin. I can't think of his last name, but the kid who played the original Roderick in the live action Diary of a Wimpy Kid films is in this. And I like way down the list, but it takes a while to get to him if you're looking at the cast. But he's there, he has a role, he's doing something. Nolan stacked his cast with so many um, recognizable faces, just so that sighted audiences must have just been anybody who knows actors. It must have just been like wow, just to like look on screen. And for me, listening to it, it was just like every time a line was being delivered, it was just fire. It was just great. Everybody did exactly what they needed to do. I find it so hard to latch on to Downey Jr.'s performance because of that, because it's like, I actually really like Matt Damon in this. I did. He has a little bit more to do than some of the other guys. It's easy to pick up on his performance as well. And I thought it was a very strong Matt Damon performance. It was unlike what he typically does. And very much unlike what he just did in Air. So I really enjoyed his performance as well. The women of the film, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, they both they don't offer a ton to the film, but when they do offer it, it's really good. So again, and when Emily Blunt starts trending, I'm like, she's trending because she's never been nominated. It doesn't necessarily mean she's better than Florence Pugh to the film. But it's so hard because the ensemble, there's so many people that he wants to give screen time to playing a character, to give a line, that once you get past Cillian Murphy, it's almost impossible to latch on to people. Downey does have a little bit more of what I would say an extended supporting role, a little bit like Matt Damon does, and a little bit like Emily Blunt to some extent. But if I had to pick the number 2 and number 3 roles, it would go to Downey and Damon. So, but there's like a massive gap between what Murphy plays and what the rest of the cast does. So, absolutely an extraordinary ensemble. He always does this. He picks up some of the most interesting actors and puts them in films. It's like looking back on Interstellar, and you're like, that's Timothée Chalamet. For like 2 seconds. Timothée Chalamet is in Interstellar. I don't think most people realize that. I remember in The Dark Knight, watching The Dark Knight, and there was just this cop in the car chase sequence that was played by Nicky Katt, and I knew who that was as an actor. He had done films before. He was in Knockaround Guys, and I was like, Nicky Katt's just a cop? This is some nameless cop? And I realized that Nolan does this just so that you can latch on. I think one of his skill sets is that he realizes that people latch on to somebody who they've seen previously in something, even if they're not 100% sure where they've seen this person before. To cast somebody who is who has done something that has put their face out there a little bit more than just your average character actor or somebody looking to break through, it gets you latched into that person suddenly a lot more. Suddenly you're way more invested in a singular person than you are into somebody who you're like, I don't know who that is, I have no idea. Yeah, so Oppenheimer is my best ensemble of the year, with Air being, I guess, the runner-up, I guess you could say. So, anyway, that's my top 10 list. I hope you liked it. I hope you watched it. If you did, thank you. And I will do another list and see you guys on the other side.